Have you ever had a childhood memory suddenly go from cool story to, wait, that's actually terrifying? Well, that's the vibe we're going for today. We're taking things you've always taken for granted and showing you the mind-blowing reality hidden just beneath the surface. This isn't just about showing off cool trivia. It's about seeing the world differently. Once you realize how much of reality is just a trick of physics or psychology, you'll never look at your surroundings the same way again. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 science facts that'll break your brain. 25. You're mostly empty space. Get this. If you squeezed all the empty space out of every single person on the planet, the entire human race would fit inside a sugar cube. Atoms, the building blocks of everything, are basically just huge amounts of nothing. The actual stuff in an atom is tiny. The rest is just a big empty cloud. So why do you feel solid? It's basically magnets. The electrons in your body are pushing away the electrons in your chair, making you feel like you're sitting. In reality, you've never actually touched anything in your life. You're just hovering on a tiny cushion of force, separate from everything else. 24. Time moves faster at your head than at your feet. Einstein figured out that gravity actually warps time. Because your head is further away from the center of the Earth than your feet, it's in a slightly weaker gravity field. That means your brain is technically older than your toes. It's a tiny difference, but it's been proven by super accurate clocks. GPS satellites have to account for this every single day. If they didn't, the maps on your phone would be off by miles. Time isn't a steady heartbeat for the whole universe. It's more like a stretchy fabric that bends depending on where you are. 23. Trillions of ghost particles are passing through you right now. Right now, about 100 trillion tiny particles called neutrinos are screaming through your body every second. They come from the sun and move at almost the speed of light. You don't feel them because they're basically ghosts. They can pass through the entire Earth without bumping into a single thing. To even see these things, scientists have to build massive detectors deep underground or under the ice in Antarctica. Most of the time, these particles just zip right through us, unnoticed. You are essentially transparent to the most common particles in the universe. 22. Air pollution doesn't just damage your lungs, it lowers your intelligence. Bad air doesn't just make you cough, it actually makes you less sharp. A massive study found that long-term exposure to pollution causes a drop in brain power equivalent to losing a whole year of school. It affects how we think, how we do math, and how we solve problems. Since almost everyone on Earth breathes air that's technically unsafe, this is basically a global drain on human intelligence. It's a slow, quiet process, but it means the environment around us is literally changing the way our brains function. 21. Scientists built a molecule that grabs salt 10 billion times better than anything before it. We have a lot of water on Earth, but most of it is too salty to drink. Cleaning it is usually a huge, expensive energy suck. But scientists recently built a tiny synthetic molecule that grabs salt 10 billion times better than anything we had before. While this is still in the lab phase, it's a game changer. Instead of using massive pressure to force water through filters, we might be able to use these molecular cages to simply pluck the salt out. It could eventually make fresh water cheap and easy for everyone. 20. A published study found that Skrillex might repel mosquitoes. Believe it or not, there's a study suggesting that mosquitoes hate dubstep. Researchers played Skrillex's Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites near some mosquitoes and found that they bit people less and stopped mating as much. The wild mix of high and low noises basically short-circuited their senses. Now don't go throwing a rave in your backyard to get rid of bugs just yet. Other scientists are still trying to prove it works every time. But the fact that aggressive electronic music might be a legit bug repellent is easily one of the funniest things in modern science. 19. Lightning is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. A single bolt of lightning is about 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. It heats up the air so fast that it creates a literal explosion. which is what you're hearing when thunder cracks overhead. The only reason lightning doesn't vaporize everything instantly is that it's over in a blink. It's an incredible amount of power packed into a tiny fraction of a second. Every second, about 100 of these sun-hot bolts hit the Earth, reminding us just how much energy is floating around in the sky. 18. Water can boil and freeze at the same time. Physics gets weird at what's called the triple point. If you get the temperature and pressure exactly right, water will boil and turn into ice at the same time. You'll see bubbles popping in a slushy mix of ice and liquid. It looks like a glitch in the Matrix, but it's just
perfectly balanced.
At that exact point, water can't decide if it wants to be a solid, a liquid, or a gas, so it just decides to be all three at once. 17. A day on Venus is longer than its year. Venus is the slowpoke of the solar system. It spins so slowly on its axis that it takes longer to finish one day than it does to complete a full trip around the sun. To make it weirder, it spins backward compared to Earth, meaning the sun would rise in the west if you could see through the thick clouds. Astronomers think a massive asteroid might have smacked into it billions of years ago and flipped its rotation. Imagine living on a planet where you'd celebrate your birthday more often than you'd see a single sunset. That's Venus for you. 16. Sharks are older than trees. Sharks have been around for about 400 million years. To put that into perspective, trees only showed up about 350 million years ago. That means for 50 million years, sharks were patrolling the ocean while the land was basically just rocks and dirt. They've survived every single mass extinction event, including the one that wiped out the dinosaurs. Sharks aren't just movie monsters. They're one of the most successful and ancient designs in the history of life on Earth. 15. Octopuses edit their own genetic code on the fly. Most animals are stuck with the genetic code they're born with, but octopuses are hackers. They can actually edit their own biological instructions on the fly to adapt to their environment, like changing how their brain works in cold water. By rewriting their own software, instead of waiting generations for evolution to do it, they stay incredibly flexible. It's one of the reasons they're so eerily smart. They found the shortcut to biological intelligence that the rest of us are still catching up to. 14. NASA turned space data into sound. It's haunting. Space is a vacuum, so there's no air to carry sound. But space is full of radio waves and plasma, and NASA has figured out how to turn that data into audio. When they play the sounds of Jupiter or a black hole, it's not what you'd expect. Jupiter sounds like a spooky pulsating engine, and black holes can sound like low ghostly moans. It's a way for us to hear the invisible forces of the universe. Turns out the silent void of space is actually a very loud, very creepy place, if you have the right ears. 13. Your cells contain an ancient alien organism. Inside every cell of your body is a tiny power plant called a mitochondrion. But billions of years ago, these were actually separate bacteria. At some point, an ancient cell basically swallowed one, and instead of digesting it, they decided to work together. This merger is what allowed complex life to happen. You aren't just one person. You're a walking, talking partnership between human DNA and the descendants of an ancient alien-like bacteria that never left. You are a biological collaboration. 12. Your gold jewelry came from colliding neutron stars. Gold doesn't just grow in the ground. It's forged in space. Specifically, it's created when two neutron stars, the densest objects in the universe, slam into each other with unbelievable force. This explosion is so violent, it literally creates new heavy elements and sprays them across the galaxy. The gold in your wedding ring or your phone was once floating through the void of space after a cosmic disaster. Eventually, it got sucked into the cloud of dust that became our Earth. Every piece of gold you own is a relic from a star-shattering explosion. 11. Honey never expires. Archaeologists have eaten 3,000-year-old honey. Archaeologists have found jars of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are 3,000 years old. The crazy part? It's still perfectly fine to eat. They actually tasted it, and it was still sweet. Honey is basically the only food that never goes bad. It's naturally acidic, it has almost no water, which bacteria hate, and bees add a special enzyme that create a tiny bit of hydrogen peroxide. It's a perfect natural preservation system. The jar in your cupboard could theoretically outlast the building you're standing in. 10. Earth's core is as hot as the surface of the sun. Right now, a few thousand miles beneath your feet, there is a giant ball of iron that is roughly 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's basically the same temperature as the surface of the sun. We're literally walking on top of a star-hot furnace. That heat is what gives Earth its magnetic field, which acts like a giant shield against deadly space radiation. Without that internal fire, we'd end up like Mars, cold, dead, and airless. We owe our lives to the massive, boiling hot heart of our planet. 9. Black holes will eventually evaporate into nothing. Even the scariest things in the universe don't last forever. Stephen Hawking proved that black holes actually leak energy very, very slowly. Over trillions and trillions of years, a black hole will eventually evaporate and disappear into nothingness. It takes an impossibly long time, but it means that even the universe's ultimate trash cans aren't permanent. In the end, everything in a black hole has an expiration date. Patience is the only difference between something that lasts and something that doesn't. 8. Every time you look at a star, you're seeing the past. Space is so big that light takes a long time to travel across it. When you look at the stars, you aren't seeing them as they are now. You're seeing them as they were when that light started its journey. For some stars, that was decades ago. For others, it was before humans even existed. The light from the Andromeda Galaxy has been traveling for 2.5 million years. By the time it hits your eyes, the star that sent it might not even be there anymore. Stargazing is the closest thing we have to a real-life time machine. 7. Some metals explode on contact with water. In chemistry, some things really don't like to mix. If you drop a small piece of a metal like sodium or potassium into a bowl of water, it doesn't just sink, it explodes. The reaction creates heat and gas so fast that it turns into a literal bomb in seconds. Some of these metals are so dangerous they'll detonate just from moisture in the air. We usually think of metal as something stable and tough, but on the left side of the periodic table, it's a list of chemicals just waiting for a drop of water to go off. 6. Your nose can distinguish over 1 trillion scents. For years, everyone thought humans could only smell about 10,000 different things. But scientists recently realized we were way off. Your nose can actually tell the difference between more than 1 trillion different scents. And that is fantastic news for White Barn and Bath & Body Works. The old number was just an educated guess that everyone kept repeating. When they actually tested it, they found our sense of smell is incredibly powerful. You have a world-class detection system built right into your face, and you probably don't even realize how much detail it's picking up. 5. The universe has no center. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion that started in a single spot. It happened everywhere at once. Because the Big Bang actually created space itself, there's no center to the universe. Every part of it is expanding away from every other part. Think of it like an inflating balloon. Every dot on the balloon moves away from the others, but no single dot is the middle. Asking where the universe started is a trick question, because the answer is everywhere. 4. Tardigrades can survive basically anything. Tardigrades, or water bears, are the ultimate survivors. These tiny creatures can survive in the vacuum of space, handle extreme radiation, and live in temperatures that would boil your blood. They're basically invincible. When things get too tough, they just dry themselves out into a little ball and wait. They can stay in that sleep mode for decades, and as soon as you give them a drop of water, they wake up and walk away. They are the most resilient things on the planet. They're adorable. 3. Glass isn't a slow-moving liquid. That's a myth. You might have heard that glass is a liquid that flows super slowly over time, which is why old windows look wavy. That's actually a total myth. Glass is a solid. It's just that the way we used to make it was a bit messy, resulting in uneven panes. If glass actually flowed, we'd see it in ancient Roman artifacts, but those have stayed the exact same shape for thousands of years. Glass is weird because its atoms are jumbled up like a liquid, but they're locked tight. It's as solid as a rock. It just doesn't look like it. 2. An average cumulus cloud weighs over 1 million pounds. Next time you see a fluffy white cloud, remember this. It probably weighs over 1 million pounds. That's about the same as 100 elephants or a massive jet. Even though they look like cotton candy, or candy floss for you non-Americans, they're packed with tons and tons of water. They stay in the air because that weight is spread out over a huge area, and warm air pushing up from the ground keeps them floating. It's only when the water gets too heavy and concentrated that it finally wins the battle and falls down as rain. 1. Roughly 95% of the universe is made of something nobody can identify. Here is the most humbling fact of all. Everything we can see, stars, planets, people, only makes up about 5% of the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy. Things we know are there, but have never actually seen or identified. We can measure the effects of these mysterious forces, but we have no idea what they actually are. We're basically living in a house where 95% of the rooms are locked and invisible. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's really out there. So there you go. Your body is mostly empty space. You're technically hovering above your chair, and the universe is mostly a mystery we can't even see. A lot to process, isn't it? The world hasn't changed since you started watching this video. It's just that now you know the truth, so reality is much weirder than it looks. If your brain isn't completely broken yet, stick around for the next one. 25 secrets of the human brain that'll leave you shocked. It turns out the thing inside your head is just as strange as the stars in the sky. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe with that notification bell so you never miss out on any new content. And as always, I'm Mike Estrin, and I'll see you in the next one.